Every 60 seconds in America, someone over the age of 60 suffers a health event that changes everything. Memory, mobility, independence. Yet most people go to bed tonight with no idea it's about to happen. You may think you're safe. You may think you're doing everything right. But the smallest choice, a simple habit repeated night after night, can quietly set a trap for your heart and your brain. I want you to picture Eleanor. She's 71, a retired school teacher from Ohio who still bakes muffins for her grandchildren every Sunday morning. She loved her routines, her crossword puzzles at the kitchen table, her afternoon walks. She told her daughter, "I feel young inside, just slower." But one Tuesday morning, Eleanor didn't wake up the same. Her speech was slurred. Her right hand couldn't grip her coffee cup. What struck her family most was the look in her eyes, the confusion, the fear, as if her own brain had betrayed her overnight. Doctors found the culprit wasn't bad luck. It was a pattern, something that built slowly, invisibly. Eleanor had gone to bed the same way for years, thinking it was harmless. What she didn't realize was that her heart rhythm had turned chaotic in the night. The medical name is atrial fibrillation. That's when the upper chambers of your heart stop beating smoothly and start quivering, like a bird trapped in a cage. Blood inside begins to swirl instead of flowing forward. And when blood swirls, clots form. Those clots can travel to the brain in seconds, cutting off oxygen like someone twisting a faucet shut. Think of it this way. Your brain is a thirsty garden. Every cell waits for water. But when a clot forms, it's like someone slamming the hose kink tight. The garden gasps, starves, wilts, and once those cells die, they do not return. Eleanor never thought a choice as simple as how she rested each evening could turn into a silent setup for disaster. She thought she was just sleeping. She thought she was safe. But here's the hope. You are not powerless. You can train your heart to stay steady through the night. Doctors now advise that seniors check their pulse before bed. 30 seconds, 2 fingers on the wrist. If it feels like a skipping record instead of a steady drum, you know something is wrong. You can keep your bedroom cool, between 65 and 68 degrees, because heat strains the heart. And you can build a shield with movement. Just 10 minutes of gentle walking after dinner lowers nighttime clotting risk dramatically. 10 minutes. That's all it takes to tip the odds in your favor. If you've ever woken with your heart racing or felt your chest flutter while lying in bed, type "yes" in the comments. Don't ignore it. These tiny signals are warnings written inside your body. Because while Eleanor survived, many do not. Some never open their eyes again. Their families find them in the morning, peaceful on the surface, yet gone forever. It is a thief in the night, silent, merciless, final. And here is the terrifying truth. Even if your heart beats steady now, another habit you probably thought was protecting you may already be choking your arteries as you eat. One bite at a time, one meal at a time, and by the time you feel it, it may already be too late. Every year, more than half of all strokes and heart failures in seniors could have been prevented. Yet the same quiet mistakes are repeated in kitchens, bedrooms, and living rooms across America. Not by strangers, by people just like you. People who believed they were doing the right things, until one day their lives were split in two, before and after. I think of Walter. He's 68, a retired mechanic from Michigan. Still drives his old pickup, still loves tinkering in the garage. Every morning, he made himself a big bowl of healthy cereal, poured orange juice into a tall glass, and felt proud of his choices. He used to say, At least I'm not eating bacon and eggs. But one morning, he was rushed to the ER, his left arm weak, his speech tangled. Doctors told him his carotid artery, the main highway carrying blood to his brain, was nearly blocked. Walter couldn't believe it. He thought he was safe. Here's what really happened inside his body. Carotid artery narrowing doesn't strike all at once. It builds silently. Sugar and processed grains cause tiny injuries in the artery wall, and the body tries to patch them with cholesterol. Layer by layer, that patch thickens, like rust forming inside a pipe. The opening gets smaller. The flow slows. And one day, the pipe doesn't deliver water. The brain gasps. That is what happened to Walter. It sounds frightening, and it is, but the solution is simpler than most people think. Studies show that limiting added sugar to less than 24 grams per day, the equivalent of 6 teaspoons, and replacing just one processed breakfast with steel-cut oats or eggs 3 times a week can cut the risk of carotid narrowing almost in half. That's a small trade for a brain that keeps its sharpness, for hands that can still button a shirt, for legs that can still climb stairs. If you've ever reached for a healthy cereal, one or here cereal box, without looking at the sugar label, type yes in the comments. Awareness is the first step, because it's not about fear for fear's sake. It's about taking control before the damage takes control of you. Walter still walks his dog every evening now. He switched his breakfast, he checks labels, and he laughs when his grandson asks him to show the muscles. His life isn't over. He got a second chance. And so can you. But not everyone is as fortunate. For many, the first sign of narrowing is the last day they stand on their own feet, the last word they ever speak clearly, the last morning they pour their juice. And here's the hard truth. Even if your arteries are clear today, another habit, something you may be doing right now as you rest, could already be starving your brain of oxygen. Quietly, patiently, like a thief in the dark. Every hour, another senior is rushed to the hospital because of a condition that could have been prevented with one simple change at home. That's not an exaggeration. It's happening right now, in neighborhoods just like yours. And the hardest part is this. The warning signs are often ignored until it's too late. I remember Thomas, age 70, a retired mail carrier who loved tending his roses every morning. He always said, "These flowers keep me alive." One afternoon, he collapsed in his yard, hands still covered in soil. Doctors found atrial fibrillation. His heart's rhythm had been fluttering and skipping for months. He thought his occasional fatigue was just age, but inside his chest, blood was swirling instead of flowing, thickening into clots, just waiting for the moment to strike. Atrial fibrillation is dangerous because the heart's upper chambers stop pumping in unison. Imagine a washing machine that never spins properly. The clothes just sit in dirty water. That's what happens to blood. It pools. It stagnates. And stagnant blood breeds clots that can cut off oxygen to your brain in an instant. But here's the hope. You don't need a hospital to start protecting yourself. You can take control tonight. Check your pulse at your wrist or neck for 30 seconds every evening before bed. Count the beats. A normal rhythm is steady, like a drum. If it feels irregular, like it's tripping or skipping, don't ignore it. Call your doctor. You can also lower the strain by keeping your bedroom cool, between 65 and 68 degrees, and by walking 10 minutes after dinner to keep your blood flowing smoothly. 30 seconds, 3 degrees, 10 minutes. These numbers could mean the difference between waking strong and not waking at all. If you've ever felt your heart flutter or race, write steady in the comments. If you want to keep your brain sharp and your heart strong, make this video part of your daily routine, because someone you love may need this knowledge even more than you do. Share it. Save it. Protect them before it's too late. And remember, Thomas survived, but only after his life changed forever. Many do not. Some never get another walk in their garden. Some never get another chance to finish a conversation. Because while one hidden rhythm can steal your future, another habit, something millions of seniors do every single night, can quietly starve the brain of oxygen until it's too late. Every night, millions of seniors lie down flat on their backs, believing it is the safest way to sleep. It feels natural. It feels restful. But what most don't realize is that this very position can quietly steal oxygen from the brain, cut off breath, and set the stage for the most devastating health event of all: a sudden stroke in the dark. I think of Mary, 72 years old, a retired teacher from Pennsylvania. She loved her nightly rituals: chamomile tea, 2 chapters of a mystery novel, then lights out at exactly 10 o'clock. Her grandchildren teased her for being so precise. She used to laugh and say, "Routine keeps me young." But for years, Mary woke with splitting headaches and blamed it on age. One morning, her daughter found her confused, her words tangled, unable to recall the name of her own street. The doctors traced it back not to what she ate, not to what she drank, but to how she had been sleeping, flat, night after night. The hidden danger here is called sleep apnea. When you lie flat, gravity pulls the tongue and soft tissue backward, collapsing the airway. Oxygen drops. The brain is starved. Imagine a garden hose bent in half. The water slows to a trickle. That is exactly what happens in your throat. The air slows, the oxygen dwindles, and your brain cells cry out for breath. It happens silently. You don't feel it. You don't wake gasping every time. Sometimes you never wake at all. That's what makes it so dangerous. Your independence, your memory, your very life can be slipping away one shallow breath at a time. But here's where hope enters. The solution doesn't require machines or surgery. It requires an angle. Research shows that elevating your upper body by just 30 degrees, using a wedge pillow or adjusting the head of your bed, keeps the airway open. 30 degrees. That's the difference between steady oxygen and silent suffocation. Another step. Avoid heavy meals or alcohol within 2 hours of lying down. Both relax the airway muscles and make collapse more likely. Small, measurable changes with enormous protection. If you've ever woken with morning headaches, or if your partner says you snore loudly at night, type "breathe" in the comments. Because those small signals are warnings. They are your body's red flags, and they should never be ignored. Mary made the adjustment. She raised her bed slightly, she changed her evening habits, and her headaches faded. Her memory sharpened. She told her granddaughter, "I finally feel like I'm waking rested again." But not every story ends with relief. For too many, the very night they thought was restful became the night their brain was robbed of oxygen forever. And while sleep apnea crushes the airway in silence, another habit, one practiced by millions each evening at the dinner table, can choke your arteries just as surely, one bite at a time, until the flow stops completely. Every time you fall asleep flat on your back, your airway is placed in a vulnerable position. Gravity drags the soft tissues down. The space narrows. Oxygen drops. And each drop is a tiny assault on your brain. It doesn't take years. It doesn't take months. It can happen in a single night. Frank, 69, a retired truck driver from Missouri, lived this truth. He loved dozing in his recliner after long dinners with friends, His wife, Jean, often nudged him, saying, "You snore like a freight train." He would laugh and reply, "That means I'm sleeping good." But one winter morning, Jean found him trembling. His lips blue. He had stopped breathing for nearly half a minute at a time during the night. The diagnosis was sleep apnea, and the toll was real. Slowed memory, constant fatigue, blood pressure spiking higher each month. Sleep apnea doesn't just disturb sleep. It forces the heart and brain into crisis mode over and over. Picture a light switch flicked on and off hundreds of times. Wires wear down. Bulbs burn out faster. That's what happens inside your body. Every pause in breathing is like flipping that switch, jarring the system, stressing your heart, starving your brain. Frank's doctor explained it simply. The airway collapses. Oxygen can't enter. Carbon dioxide builds. The brain jolts the body awake just enough to gasp. Over and over, all night long. Each episode weakens the body. Each episode pushes the clock forward. But the solution, once again, is measurable, practical, and within reach. Elevating the head of the bed by 6 to 8 inches reduces airway collapse dramatically. 6 to 8 inches. That's all. For many, that's the height of 2 stacked pillows or a wedge insert. Combine that with side sleeping, positioned with a pillow behind your back to keep you steady. And the difference can be life-saving. Oxygen stays steady. The heart stays calmer. The brain gets the fuel it craves. If you've ever woken gasping, or if someone you love snores so loudly it rattles the walls, type "awake" in the comments. That single word could be the signal that saves a life. Frank adjusted. He raised his bed frame by placing blocks under the headboard, exactly 6 inches. He trained himself to roll onto his side by hugging a pillow. Within weeks, his headaches faded. His blood pressure dropped by 15 points. And most of all, he felt alive again in the mornings. He told Jean, "For the first time in years, I don't need a nap before lunch." But many never get that chance. Some drift into sleep flat on their backs, their airway closing, their brain gasping, their heart straining, until the morning never comes. And while oxygen starvation can end a life silently in the night, another habit, the food you proudly place on your plate, can just as easily thicken your blood and choke your arteries until they fail without warning. Most seniors believe that eating heart-healthy foods means they can eat as much as they like. Olive oil, nuts, avocados, these are supposed to protect the heart. But what if I told you that even the healthiest foods can quietly become poison when overdone? Every spoonful beyond what your body truly needs can thicken your blood, clog your arteries, and push you closer to a stroke or heart attack without warning. Take Robert, 68, a retired bus driver from Ohio. Every morning, he poured himself a generous bowl of oatmeal, drizzled 2 tablespoons of olive oil on top, and sprinkled a handful of almonds. "I'm doing everything right," he told his wife, as he sipped green tea. He felt proud. He felt safe. But one Saturday morning, while reading the newspaper in his recliner, he suddenly felt dizzy, his vision blurred, his speech slurred. His daughter rushed him to the ER, and doctors found carotid artery narrowing. One of the major arteries feeding his brain was almost completely blocked. The very foods he thought were protecting him had contributed to the problem. Here's what's happening inside the body. Overeating fats, even healthy ones, can cause the blood to thicken and the vessel walls to accumulate cholesterol layers. Imagine pipes in your house slowly filling with sticky residue. The water pressure drops, leaks appear, and eventually a pipe can burst. That is exactly what happens in arteries. Flow slows. Oxygen delivery falters. The brain starves, the heart strains, and one clot can end life or independence in an instant. But there is hope. You can enjoy your favorites without sacrificing your arteries. Research shows that limiting nuts to 1 ounce per day, about a small handful, and olive oil to 1 to 2 tablespoons daily, paired with 2 servings of leafy greens, keeps blood thin and vessels open. No guesswork. Just numbers you can measure. Swap 1 meal of overly rich food for protein and fiber at least 3 times per week. Step by step, bite by bite, you can reverse years of silent buildup. If you've ever poured that extra tablespoon of oil or added 1 more handful of nuts thinking it as harmless, type measure in the comments. Your awareness matters. Your blood matters. Your life matters. Robert adjusted. He began measuring his portions carefully, balancing fats with vegetables, walking 15 minutes after each meal. Within weeks, his dizziness disappeared, his energy returned, and his doctor confirmed his carotid arteries were no longer worsening. He told his granddaughter, "I thought I was safe before, but now I know what safe really feels like." But for many, the danger continues unseen. Every extra spoon, every extra handful, silently thickens the blood until the next meal becomes a ticking time bomb. And while arteries are being choked quietly, another nightly habit, something you likely do before even lying down, can collapse the airway and starve your brain of oxygen while you sleep. Silently, relentlessly. Every night, millions of seniors avoid drinking water before bed, thinking it will save them from midnight trips to the bathroom. It seems harmless. It seems wise. But what it really does is silently thicken the blood, slow circulation, and push the body toward a crisis it won to see coming until it is too late. Take Linda, 74, a grandmother from Arizona. She loved baking pies for her church group every Thursday, humming softly as she measured sugar and flour. "I'll just skip water tonight," she told herself, worried she might wake too often. That night, she slept, but her body didn't rest. Hours later, she woke dizzy, her right side tingling. Her daughter found her confused, unable to lift her arm. Doctors confirmed a nocturnal stroke had occurred, caused in part by blood clotting while she slept. Here's what happens inside the body. Skipping water leads to dehydration, which thickens the blood, making it more likely to clot. Imagine a river slowly turning into mud. The current slows. Debris sticks together. One sudden blockage, and your brain is starved of oxygen in seconds. That is exactly what happened to Linda. One night of missing hydration, one river turned to sludge, and a brain that desperately needed blood didn't get it. The good news is, you can prevent this with precision. Start by drinking half a glass of water, 4 ounces, 30 minutes before bed. Not more, not less. That small amount keeps blood flowing without flooding the bladder. Pair it with a light evening walk of 5 to 10 minutes, allowing circulation to carry oxygen steadily to the brain and heart. And keep your bedroom cool, 65 or 68 degrees, to reduce overnight strain on vessels. Small steps, measurable actions, life-saving outcomes. If you've ever woken thirsty in the middle of the night or felt dizzy when standing, type hydrate in the comments. Every click is a commitment to protecting your brain, your independence, your life. Linda followed this simple routine. Half a glass, light walk, cool room. Within a week, her mornings were clear. Her fatigue lifted. Her memory sharpened. She said, "I never realized water could save me until it almost didn't." But not every story ends with recovery. Many seniors sleep through dehydration, their blood thickening quietly while oxygen-starved cells scream for relief. And while thick blood waits silently, another habit, sitting too long in your recliner, can trap it in your legs, letting clots form unnoticed, ready to strike without warning. Every evening, millions of seniors sink into their favorite recliner, certain that rest is safety. It feels cozy. It feels deserved. But sitting still for hours is silently turning your legs into a trap, slowing blood flow, and setting the stage for a clot that can strike without warning. Think of George, 70, a retired veteran from Texas. Every evening he sank into his leather recliner with the news playing softly in the background and a cup of decaf coffee at his side. "This is my time," he'd say with a content sigh. But one afternoon, his wife found him struggling to stand, his right calf swollen, pain shooting up his leg. Doctors diagnosed deep vein thrombosis, a dangerous clot that formed because blood had been stagnant for too long. George had no idea that sitting for 4 hours straight, even in comfort, could turn his own veins into a hidden battlefield. Here's what happens inside your body. When you sit for long periods, blood in the legs pools instead of circulating. Imagine a busy highway where cars stop moving for hours. Eventually, traffic jams harden into accidents. That's what happens in your veins. Blood thickens, clots form. And once a clot dislodges, it can travel straight to the lungs or heart, cutting off life-sustaining oxygen in an instant. But the solution is measurable, practical, and easy to implement. Stand up every 30 minutes. Flex your calves and ankles for 5 minutes. Take a short walk of 10 minutes after each hour of sitting. These numbers are not arbitrary. They directly increase circulation, reduce clot formation, and protect your brain and heart. Small movements, repeated consistently, save lives. If you've ever watched an entire show without moving, type "move" in the comments. If your legs feel stiff or heavy, this is your body sending urgent signals. Listen to them. Respect them. Protect your life. George started a new routine. He set a timer, stood for 5 minutes every half hour, did gentle calf raises, and walked 15 minutes after dinner. Within days, swelling disappeared. Energy returned. The fear of another clot lessened. He told his granddaughter, "I thought rest was safety, but movement is what keeps me alive." But many still sit, believing comfort is protection, while clots silently form, waiting to strike. Every hour spent unmoving is a risk building silently in your veins, like a thief waiting in the shadows. And while your legs are under siege, another nightly habit, the sugar you pour into your coffee or cereal, can silently inflame arteries, thickening blood, and pushing your heart closer to failure without a single warning. Every morning, millions of seniors reach for their favorite sugary coffee drinks, thinking they are fueling their day. Sweet, comforting, harmless. But each cup floods the bloodstream with sugar, stressing the brain and heart in ways you don't feel, until it's too late. One daily habit, repeated year after year, can quietly shrink memory, weaken focus, and pave the way for cognitive decline. Take Diane, 66, a nurse's aide from Florida. She starts every day with a large mocha latte, half a cup of milk, 3 teaspoons of sugar, and whipped cream on top. "I need this to wake up," she tells her friend as they share a morning laugh at the diner. She felt alert. She felt energized. Until small things started slipping. Keys misplaced, names forgotten, appointments missed. One afternoon she couldn't recall the route to a patient's home. Doctors diagnosed early cognitive decline, directly linked to repeated sugar spikes in her bloodstream. Here's what happens inside your body. Excess sugar causes insulin spikes that damage tiny blood vessels in the brain. Think of it like electrical sparks frying an old circuit board. Over time, those sparks damage the wires. Memory fades, attention falters, reaction slows. Every sugar-laden sip is a tiny jolt, silently eroding the brain you rely on for independence. The solution is precise and manageable. Limit added sugar in drinks to no more than 20 grams per day, roughly 5 teaspoons. Swap a morning mocha for black coffee, or add cinnamon and a splash of milk instead of sugar. Drink at least 6 ounces of water before and after your coffee to help stabilize blood sugar. These numbers are measurable. These numbers protect memory. Step by step, sip by sip, you reclaim control. If you've ever poured sugar into your morning coffee without thinking, type "awake" in the comments. Awareness is the first shield. Awareness is the first step to preserving your brain, your independence, your life. Diane made the switch. Black coffee in the morning, cinnamon instead of sugar, a glass of water alongside. Within weeks, her alertness returned, her forgetfulness diminished, and she could navigate her busy days with confidence. She told her granddaughter, "I never realized my coffee was stealing my brain until I tasted the difference." But countless others continue, unaware that each sweet sip is weakening the very circuits that make life rich. And while sugar slowly fries brain vessels, another silent danger, ignored hearing loss, can accelerate decline even faster, starving the brain of the stimulation it needs to stay sharp, leaving it vulnerable to stroke, dementia, and sudden collapse. Every year, thousands of seniors lose more than just their hearing. They lose connection, independence, and even brain function. Ignoring hearing loss isn't just about missing conversations. It silently starves the brain of stimulation, making it more vulnerable to cognitive decline, stroke, and memory loss. Consider Helen, 73, a retired librarian from New York. She spent decades surrounded by books and chatter, guiding reading groups and hosting tea afternoons. Lately, she avoided gatherings, claiming, "I just can't hear well anymore." Her family noticed she seemed distant, repeating questions, missing jokes. One morning, she struggled to recognize her own street while walking to the corner store. Doctors diagnosed vascular cognitive impairment, worsened by untreated hearing loss, her brain deprived of sound, like a garden left unwatered. Here's what happens inside the body. When the brain doesn't receive regular auditory signals, it reallocates resources to compensate, straining memory and attention networks. Imagine a factory where the machines suddenly stop receiving raw materials. The workers are left idle, vital systems slow, breakdowns multiply. That is what untreated hearing loss does. Neurons starve, communication falters, and cognitive circuits weaken. The solution is straightforward and measurable. Schedule a hearing test once per year, and if any loss is detected, use hearing aids for at least 8 hours daily to maintain consistent stimulation. Keep background noise moderate, avoid blasting TV or music over 70 decibels, and practice talking with family at least 15 minutes per day to engage auditory pathways. These numbers are your lifeline. Consistency preserves brain health. Step by step, day by day, you protect your mind. If you've been nodding along, pretending to hear, type "listen" in the comments. That simple acknowledgement could mark the turning point for your brain, your independence, your life. Helen finally accepted help. She got fitted with hearing aids and committed to using them every day. Within weeks, she rejoined book club discussions, remembered details more easily, and felt present again in her own life. She told her granddaughter, "I didn't realize how much I was losing until I could hear the world clearly again." But too many continue to ignore the signs. Conversations fade, laughter becomes distant, memory slips, and one misstep, Missed cues, slowed reactions can trigger a fall or stroke. And while her ears were deprived, another unseen danger, high blood pressure silently rising day and night, tightened the arteries, straining the heart and inching closer to a sudden, irreversible crisis. Every morning, the moment you push yourself out of bed too quickly, your blood pressure spikes. It rises sharply, straining your heart and brain. Many seniors think this is normal, just part of getting older. But that sudden surge can tear tiny vessels, trigger a stroke, or set off heart rhythm problems before breakfast even begins. Take Harold, 71, a retired accountant from Wisconsin. Every morning he jumped out of bed to start his day, eager to get to his crossword and coffee. "I have no time to dawdle," he joked to his wife. One morning, as he swung his legs over the bed, the room tilted. He felt his heart pound and his head spin. Moments later, he collapsed to the floor. The ER revealed he had experienced an ischemic stroke triggered by a morning blood pressure surge, a danger he never suspected in his own bedroom. Here's what happens inside your body. When you stand suddenly, gravity pulls blood down into your legs, reducing flow to the brain. The heart compensates by pumping faster, arteries tighten, and blood pressure spikes. Imagine a garden hose kinked and then suddenly straightened. Pressure surges, threatening to burst weak points. That surge is exactly what can rupture tiny brain vessels, cut oxygen delivery, and trigger stroke. The solution is precise. Sit on the edge of the bed for 60 seconds before standing. Swing your legs slowly, one at a time, and take a deep breath. Stand gradually over the course of 30 seconds while keeping your feet shoulder-width apart. Monitor your blood pressure daily with a wrist or arm cuff, ideally first thing in the morning, and keep it below 135/85 if possible. These small numbers, simple steps, save lives by preventing the brain from being assaulted with sudden pressure. If you've ever felt dizzy or lightheaded when getting out of bed, type "steady" in the comments. Every alert, every mindful step is a protective shield for your heart, your brain, your independence. Harold adopted the routine. Sit, swing, breathe, rise slowly. Within days, dizziness vanished. He could enjoy his crossword and coffee without fear. He told his granddaughter, "I thought getting up was harmless, but now I move like I own my day, safely." But countless seniors still leap out of bed, unaware that each sudden rise is a silent attack on fragile vessels. Every abrupt movement is a potential disaster. Tiny arteries straining, the brain gasping, and the heart fighting against a force it was never designed to withstand. And while morning surges threaten silently, another hidden risk, chronic inflammation from untreated joint pain, can slowly stiffen arteries and weaken the heart, setting the stage for a crisis that strikes without a sound. Every habit we've explored tonight is silently shaping your risk, minute by minute, hour by hour. Each choice, each small act, can either protect your brain or push it closer to crisis. Seniors often think it's too late to change, but the truth is, even small adjustments make a profound difference. I think of Eleanor, 75, a retired seamstress from Ohio. She kept a meticulous routine. Oatmeal every morning, coffee with sugar, evenings spent in her recliner with the TV on. She thought she was doing everything right. But one night, she collapsed while getting up for water. Doctors discovered atrial fibrillation, compounded by years of these overlooked habits. Eleanor's heart was fluttering without her knowing, her brain starving of steady blood flow during brief oxygen drops at night. Atrial fibrillation is tricky because it doesn't always announce itself. The upper chambers of the heart quiver instead of pumping in rhythm, allowing blood to pool. Imagine a washing machine that shakes, but never spins. Clothes sit in stagnant water. That is exactly what happens inside your chest. Stagnant blood forms clots, which can travel to the brain and cause stroke in an instant. The solution is measurable, practical, and achievable. Check your pulse at your wrist or neck for 30 seconds every evening. If it feels irregular, call your doctor immediately. Keep your bedroom cool, 65 to 68 degrees, to reduce nighttime strain on circulation. Stand up slowly in the morning, spending 60 seconds on the edge of the bed before rising. Walk 10 minutes after meals to keep blood flowing, and drink at least 4 ounces of water 30 minutes before bedtime. These numbers are not arbitrary. They are lifelines. If any of this sounds familiar, type "steady" in the comments. Awareness is the first shield. Awareness is your chance to reclaim your independence, your focus, your mornings without fear. Eleanor began these small shifts. Half a glass of water before bed. Wedge pillow at 30 degrees. Side sleeping to keep her airway open. Pulse checks each evening. Within weeks, she noticed clarity returning. Fatigue lifted. She told her granddaughter, "I feel like I finally woke up again." But many seniors continue unknowingly, leaving habits uncorrected. Blood thickening, arteries straining, oxygen starving the brain silently while life continues around them. And while Eleanor began reversing risk, another hidden danger waits for those unaware. Chronic inflammation from processed foods quietly stiffens vessels, preparing the body for sudden disaster before breakfast even begins. Every small habit we've discussed adds up, compounding risk silently while life goes on. Each overlooked sip, skipped movement, or sudden rise in the morning can set the stage for stroke, heart strain, or cognitive decline. Awareness alone isn't enough. Action is what preserves your independence. I remember Carl, 72, a retired school principal from Michigan. He loved his morning ritual, coffee loaded with sugar, a leisurely sit in his recliner, reading the newspaper. "I deserve a slow start," he told his wife, settling in. One morning, he stood too quickly after reading the sports section. Lightheaded, dizzy, he clutched the armrest, but before he could steady himself, he fell. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed carotid artery narrowing combined with a sudden blood pressure spike. An almost silent disaster, waiting for the wrong moment to strike. Carotid artery narrowing happens when cholesterol and plaque slowly build up inside the main arteries to your brain. Picture a garden hose with mineral deposits inside. Water still flows, but the pressure rises, and a sudden jerk or surge can dislodge debris, blocking the flow entirely. That is exactly what can happen to your brain in seconds. Oxygen cut off, neurons gasping, memory and function hanging in the balance. The solution is precise and actionable. Measure blood pressure daily and keep a log. Limit added sugar to no more than 20 grams per day. Stand slowly, 60 seconds on the edge of the bed before rising. Walk 10 minutes after each meal. Elevate your head 6 to 8 inches at night if you sleep flat. Side sleep to keep the airway open. Small numbers, exact steps, life-saving changes. If this sounds familiar, type "alert" in the comments. Every awareness moment is a shield for your arteries, your brain, your independence. Every small action compounds into protection, one step at a time. Carl implemented these changes immediately. Measured coffee sugar, slow rises, short walks after meals, and adjusted sleeping position. Within weeks, his morning dizziness vanished, energy returned, and he felt alert for the first time in years. He told his daughter, "I thought routines were safe, but routines were quietly hurting me. Now I move carefully, and my life feels mine again." but far too many continue unaware. Sitting too long, skipping water, standing too fast, sugar-laden drinks, hearing loss, all combined silently. Each habit strains the heart, thickens the blood, narrows vessels, and leaves the brain gasping for oxygen while the heart fights to keep up. And while Carl regained control, another invisible danger lurks: sleep apnea, silently reducing oxygen during the night. Each gasp bringing the brain and heart closer to crisis without a single warning. Every habit we've exposed is a thread in a hidden web, silently straining your heart, brain, and arteries. Left unchecked, these threads tighten, restricting blood flow, starving neurons, and setting the stage for strokes, falls, and cognitive decline. But each thread can be loosened, each habit corrected, giving you control back over your life. Think of Margaret, 78, a retired school counselor from Oregon. She followed all the routines she thought were safe. Coffee in the morning, short walks in the afternoon, sitting in her recliner to watch the evening news. But she ignored subtle hearing loss and slept flat on her back every night. One evening, she woke gasping for air, her pulse racing. Doctors diagnosed obstructive sleep apnea, combined with atrial fibrillation, her heart fluttering, blood thickening, oxygen starving the brain while she slept. "I didn't realize I was risking my life every night," she whispered to her granddaughter as they sorted knitting supplies together. "Here's what happens inside the body." Obstructive sleep apnea blocks the airway, causing brief pauses in breathing. Oxygen drops, heart rate spikes, blood pressure surges. Imagine a pump trying to fill a leaky balloon. Sometimes it works, sometimes it bursts. That is your brain and heart, straining to survive while hidden dangers pile on, unnoticed. The solution is measurable, clear, and doable. Use a CPAP device nightly for at least 6 hours to keep the airway open. Sleep on your side at 30 to 45 degrees, if possible. Schedule hearing assessments yearly, and use hearing aids for 8 hours daily if needed. Walk 10 minutes after meals. Hydrate with 4 ounces of water 30 minutes before bed. Stand slowly in the morning for 60 seconds. Track blood pressure daily and aim for under 135/85. Each step is a precise lifeline. If this resonates, type "protect" in the comments. Each small action is a shield for your brain, your heart, your independence. Awareness alone isn't enough. Implementation is everything. Margaret began these adjustments immediately. Side sleeping, CPAP nightly, consistent hydration, slow morning rises, hearing aids in place. Within weeks, she felt more alert. Her energy returned, and she engaged fully with her family and friends again. "I never realized safety was something I could build," she said, threading yarn carefully through a colorful scarf. But countless seniors continue unaware. Blood thickens, arteries narrow, neurons gasp for oxygen, and the heart strains against invisible forces, while habits pile on silently. Every skipped walk, sugar-laden drink, flat sleep, or rapid rise in the morning adds pressure. And while Margaret reclaimed her life, another unseen threat lurks. Chronic inflammation from sedentary days and processed foods silently stiffens vessels, leaving the brain gasping, the heart straining, and disaster waiting silently in the shadows. Every moment unchecked is a risk accumulating, a storm forming quietly behind the calm of daily life. Right now, while you're watching this, your habits are quietly shaping the state of your brain, heart, and independence. Every skipped step, every sugary sip, every night spent flat on your back could be quietly stressing your arteries, starving neurons, and leaving your heart on the brink. Awareness alone isn't enough. Action is the difference between control and crisis. I think of George, 74, a retired firefighter from Arizona. Each morning, he gulped coffee loaded with sugar, spent hours in his recliner, and ignored the subtle ringing in his ears. "I'm fine, just a little tired," he told his daughter as they watered the garden together. But one evening, while getting up to fetch a glass of water, he felt a sudden rush in his head. His vision blurred. Doctors diagnosed atrial fibrillation combined with sleep apnea, a deadly combination triggered by habits he thought were harmless. Here's the mechanism at work: sitting too long, skipping water, standing too fast, sugar-laden drinks, hearing loss, all combined silently. Each habit strains the heart, thickens the blood, narrows vessels, and leaves the brain gasping for oxygen while the heart fights to keep up. And while Carl regained control, another invisible danger lurks: sleep apnea, silently reducing oxygen during the night, each gasp bringing the brain and heart closer to crisis without a single warning. Every habit we've exposed is a thread in a hidden web, silently straining your heart, brain, and arteries. Left unchecked, these threads tighten, restricting blood flow, starving neurons, and setting the stage for strokes, falls, and cognitive decline. But each thread can be loosened, each habit corrected, giving you control back over your life. Think of Margaret, 78, a retired school counselor from Oregon. She followed all the routines she thought were safe: coffee in the morning, short walks in the afternoon, sitting in her recliner to watch the evening news. But she ignored subtle hearing loss and slept flat on her back every night. One evening, she woke gasping for air, her pulse racing. Doctors diagnosed obstructive sleep apnea, combined with atrial fibrillation, her heart fluttering, blood thickening, oxygen starving the brain while she slept. "I didn't realize I was risking my life every night," she whispered to her granddaughter as they sorted knitting supplies together. "Here's what happens inside the body." Obstructive sleep apnea blocks the airway, causing brief pauses in breathing. Oxygen drops, heart rate spikes, blood pressure surges. Imagine a pump trying to fill a leaky balloon. Sometimes it works, sometimes it bursts. That is your brain and heart, straining to survive while hidden dangers pile on, unnoticed. The solution is measurable, clear, and doable. Use a CPAP device nightly for at least 6 hours to keep the airway open. Sleep on your side at 30 to 45 degrees, if possible. Schedule hearing assessments yearly, and use hearing aids for 8 hours daily if needed. Walk 10 minutes after meals. Hydrate with 4 ounces of water 30 minutes before bed. Stand slowly in the morning for 60 seconds. Track blood pressure daily and aim for under 135/85. Each step is a precise lifeline. If this resonates, type "protect" in the comments. Each small action is a shield for your brain, your heart, your independence. Awareness alone isn't enough. Implementation is everything. Margaret began these adjustments immediately. Side sleeping, CPAP nightly, consistent hydration, slow morning rises, hearing aids in place. Within weeks, she felt more alert. Her energy returned, and she engaged fully with her family and friends again. "I never realized safety was something I could build," she said, threading yarn carefully through a colorful scarf. But countless seniors continue unaware. Blood thickens, arteries narrow, neurons gasp for oxygen, and the heart strains against invisible forces, while habits pile on silently. Every skipped walk, sugar-laden drink, flat sleep, or rapid rise in the morning adds pressure. And while Margaret reclaimed her life, another unseen threat lurks: chronic inflammation from sedentary days and processed foods silently stiffens vessels, leaving the brain gasping, the heart straining, and disaster waiting silently in the shadows. Every moment unchecked is a risk accumulating, a storm forming quietly behind the calm of daily life. Right now, while you're watching this, your habits are quietly shaping the state of your brain, heart, and independence. Every skipped step, every sugary sip, every night spent flat on your back could be quietly stressing your arteries, starving neurons, and leaving your heart on the brink. Awareness alone isn't enough. Action is the difference between control and crisis. I think of George, 74, a retired firefighter from Arizona. Each morning, he gulped coffee loaded with sugar, spent hours in his recliner, and ignored the subtle ringing in his ears. "I'm fine, just a little tired," he told his daughter as they watered the garden together. But one evening, while getting up to fetch a glass of water, he felt a sudden rush in his head. His vision blurred. Doctors diagnosed atrial fibrillation combined with sleep apnea, a deadly combination triggered by habits he thought were harmless. Here's the mechanism at work. Atrial fibrillation causes the upper chambers of the heart to quiver, pooling blood instead of pumping it smoothly. Imagine a river that suddenly stops flowing, and debris starts to collect. That debris, blood clots, can shoot to the brain, cutting off oxygen in seconds, leading to stroke or sudden cognitive loss. Each habitual stressor you allow, sugar, rapid movement, sitting too long, untreated hearing loss, feeds this hidden danger. The solution is precise, clear, and actionable. Check your pulse 30 seconds every evening. Use hearing aids for 8 hours daily if needed. Stand slowly from bed. 60 seconds on the edge before rising. Limit sugar to 20 grams per day. Walk 10 minutes after meals. Sleep on your side at 30 to 45 degrees and use a CPAP for at least 6 hours per night if prescribed. Hydrate with 4 ounces of water 30 minutes before bed. These are not suggestions. They are measurable lifelines protecting your brain, heart, and independence. If this resonates, type "protect" in the comments. Every single action you take compounds into real defense. Every measured step shields your brain. Every mindful habit safeguards your arteries. Every moment of awareness builds control over your life. George implemented these changes immediately. Side sleeping, CPAP nightly, slow rises, walks after meals, controlled sugar. Within weeks, his dizziness vanished, clarity returned, and he felt present with his grandchildren again. "I thought I was safe, but I wasn't. Now I move carefully, and I feel alive again," he said, passing a hose to his grandson as they watered the flowers. But countless seniors continue unaware. Blood thickens, neurons gasp, arteries strain, and the heart fights against invisible pressure. Each ignored habit is a silent storm building inside the body. Every skipped check, every sugar-laden sip, every flat night in bed leaves your brain gasping, your heart straining, and your independence hanging by a thread. Right now, at this very moment, the risk is real. And unless you act, the storm continues to grow, quiet, invisible, unstoppable, until it strikes without warning.